Okay, it's 3 o'clock. I will call this a finance meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Indivisible. Okay, I need a motion to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion?
So
Moved
moved.
by Leonetti.
Support from Kraft.
There's a motion and support. Please vote.
That motion passes 9-0.
Thank you. Move to approve the minutes dated October 14th, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved, Gillette.
Moved by Gillette, support.
Dugay.
Support by Dugay, please vote.
That motion passes 9-0.
Thank you. Okay, we'll open up public participation. Does anyone wish to be heard? If you are on a phone, please hit *6 to unmute yourself. Anyone wish to be heard? I don't see anybody online. Anyone wish to be heard? Seeing none, we'll close public participation. Budget reviews. We'll start with Department of Human Services budget. And Steve, do you want to open up? Or do you want me to just...
Are you on C26? Is that?
Yes, sir.
So there's that budget, and then there's another budget in the child care fund, which I think Kim Borges on the line and can speak to that. But the budget in the general fund is essentially for per diems for the DHS board. There's a membership in there as well. And then there's a emergency services allocation of about $45,000, which then the county uses to supplement, I suppose, if you want to refer to it that way, folks that apply to the state for some sort of assistance and are denied or otherwise unable to receive their full request from the state. The state will then send a request, basically, or an invoice to us to supplement those folks. So you'll see the administration is $11,000. That's a membership and per diems for DHS meetings, and then emergency needs allocation, if you will.
Okay, so can I have a motion to receive and file?
Motion to receive and file by Romano.
Support?
Support from Kraft.
Thank you. So, Steve, the only one I see on the agenda is the general fund, and I think it's because we're on such a short timeline and we have so many packed in. Does anyone have any questions on either one of them? Okay, I do not see any questions, so please vote.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Okay, so we have emergency management. Steve, do you want to speak to this, or do you want does Brandon Lewis want to speak to it?
I believe Brandon's on the line.
I am, and I'm willing to speak to it and answer any questions about the budget that we're today, if that's all right.
Sure. Let me go ahead and get the motion first. Is there a motion to receive and file?
Motion to receive and file.
Thank you. We have motion.
Support.
Thank you. We have motion and support. Go ahead.
Okay, so we have two components to our budget. We have our general fund budget, and then we have our Homeland Security Grant Fund budget. I will discuss our general fund budget first. General fund is comprised of emergency management and technical services. The budget we're presenting to you this year is a responsible budget that meets the targets set forth by the Office of the County Executive. We were able to realize some cost savings this year by proposing to leave one position in technical services open for the duration of the 2021 budget year. That largely allowed for us to meet our budget target. We have very few increases proposed in our general fund budget from last year, and they're all quite small. A few $100s, $800 to be specific, to accommodate increased cellular fees for new technology that we have here in the department so we can access LTE. A small increase in our mileage fund, $200, just due to increase in staff demands for travel around the county for doing business. And then one new item that's in there this year is with us leaving that technician position vacant for the year, I've asked that $20,000 be added to the budget to cover any overtime for the remaining technicians to make up any workflow issues that may arise from having that vacant position. The work comes in intermittently, so we may have times where we have
Hold on just a second. I have to ask everybody except for Brandon to mute. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. So the overtime fund would be to cover intermittent work periods where we need more work hours during that period than the 4 technicians that we have currently funded can staff. So all of that's accounted for within the budget target. We had about an $83,000 savings from leaving the position vacant, and met a $59,000 budget reduction target. So we're right on track. Decreases also small: office supplies, printing, books, and some equipment maintenance costs that we have in the department. Looking back at past history, the fact that a lot of our equipment is brand new this year and shouldn't require a lot of maintenance, we were able to bring some of our maintenance cost numbers down, and then some printing and production costs for community safety materials that we use. We left some funding in there to be able to continue those programs. They're incredibly valuable in our community, but we are moving delivery of a lot of those materials online and through social media. But we want to make sure that we're able to accommodate those residents that don't have access to it in those forms. So we are leaving some funding available to make that information available in hard copy. Revenue for the department is about in line with last year. We receive revenue from 4 different sources: emergency management performance grant, which offsets one of the management positions here in our office, radio administration and radio repairs, Homeland Security grant support, and then a hazardous materials preparedness grant. Last year in 2019, due to some improved tracking processes internally, we were able to increase revenue about 20% over previous year. We're not doing that well this year on 2 fronts, one of them being COVID, as we've not had as many requests for repairs and maintenance. And number 2, there's a lot of new equipment out in the field, which has just slightly lowered demand for some of our maintenance services over in the radio. That's.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's a brief overview of the general fund side. I'm happy to take questions there. I can talk a little bit about the grant funds and then take all the questions.
Okay, so when I hit details, it goes to the previous budget item, and I see Commissioner Drillette. But I think you want to speak on this budget item, don't you?
Yes, I did want to speak on this budget item.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you, Brandon, for the summary. I appreciate that. The vacant position that we're leaving open in order to meet the budget target, that's a position that was open in the past year as well. Is that correct?
That position has been open since October of last year. We made an offer to a candidate on that position in April. He ultimately did not, not April, just before COVID struck. We made an offer in February. He did not accept after negotiations, and then we were not able to go back and fill the position due to the COVID crisis.
So we've been operating minus that position for effectively for 12 months, essentially.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and have we run into the overtime needs as a result of that vacancy in the last 12 months?
We have paid out some compensation time to some of our technicians in order to meet our needs on the repair side. One thing I would say about that, though, and one thing that I want to account for is requests for service are down due to COVID. And once we start to emerge from the current COVID-19 situation, I do anticipate that our requests for service will go up and begin to put some stress on the remaining technicians. I don't think it won't be anything that the overtime can't handle next year, but it is still the long-term position of the department that we'd like to have the position filled.
Okay, so if we are able to handle the absence of the position for 12 months, do we need the $20,000 for additional overtime for the next 12 months? Is it because of the anticipated increase in services that are going to be required once COVID hopefully goes away soon?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, and thank you for answering the questions, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I don't see any other speakers. Please vote.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Next, we have the Clerk Register of Deeds. Obviously, there's several pages involved. So is Clerk Miller on? There you go.
I am, Madam Chair. How are you today?
Good. Let me go ahead and get can I get a motion to receive and file?
Moved by Leonetti.
Thank you.
Support Carabelli.
Thank you. Go ahead, Clerk Miller.
Commissioners, it's great to be with you again. Budget season, always fun, always interesting, always informative. So great to see you again. I missed those days. So the clerk's office budget really is three separate general fund budget centers. As you well know, that's the clerk budget, the Register of Deeds budget, and elections budget. We also have three special revenue funds. That's the CPL fund, the tech fund, the so-called Register of Deeds Technology Fund, which we call the Tech Fund, and the Register of Deeds Remonumentation Fund. Two other funds we staff, but we don't have control over, and that's the Civil Service Commission and the Jury Commission. So we can talk a little bit about those if you want. Not a whole lot of changes in these budgets. From the 30,000-foot view for your review, it does represent considerable belt tightening. The challenge was put to us by the Finance Department to identify savings. With our internal.
Just a second. Commissioner Hogg, could you mute until he finishes talking? Thank you. Go ahead.
So we did, this does represent some considerable belt tightening. And I want to just put this out there for your consideration and to inform your decision making going forward. But this department, while we are getting a welcome transfer of 2 spots from one area to another where we need it, our current staffing levels are what I would consider to be understaffed. The budget does not include any additional spots, and that's for good reason from the global view. But from my very specific view as an advocate for these departments, we are probably 5 FTEs below the level that I believe that we need to be at to perform the excellent service and to prevent people getting burned out and to be able to perform as effectively as we need to be. So I just want to put that out there. The big change in this budget, you see we're moving 2 entry-level or office assistant positions, which are currently housed in Register of Deeds. Those are general fund positions currently. We're moving those over to our vital records section to be funded from our CPL fund. The reason is we have seen an incredible spike in the amount of traffic for our vital records generally, but specifically for our concealed pistol licenses. Just to give you a sense of that, this is for the period from March 15th, roughly when the stay-at-home order went into place, through the middle of September, September 18th. For that period, when we pulled the numbers. That same period last year, in 2019, we had 2,346 new CPL applications. That involves someone coming in, presenting themselves in person, doing their first-time application, presenting their training certificate, and then being referred to the Sheriff's Department for fingerprinting. 2,346. In that same time period, with all the other pressures that we're facing, we processed 3,590. So a significant increase. And then our renewals, which they don't have to present themselves in person, but we do have to work with the state police to do a renewed background check and process their renewal application. In that period, that 6-month period last year, we did 2,239. This year we did 6,580. So the activity in our CPL part of our vital records has exploded, and that goes along with increase in marriage licenses as well, notaries, death certificates, in almost every category. We're able to move these two positions from the ROD general fund budget to the CPL special revenue fund budget. Helps alleviate pressure on the general fund, but also diverts some human resources to where we need them to really address this spike in the CPL applications. So I appreciate your consideration and favorable approval of that. I also want to flag for you within the capital budget that you guys reviewed, I think yesterday, we have a $100,000 much needed project, and I'm grateful for the finance department, the executive team, and including this important project in the recommendation. In the basement of the courthouse, we keep some of our criminal files and some of our civil files. The platform, the rolling shelving that's down there is an absolute safety hazard, has been identified as such. The shelving there is literally 50 years old, cannot be replaced or cannot be serviced anymore. And so we're seeking replacement of that to the tune of $100,000. And I know there are so many important projects in the capital fund budget, but I'm really grateful that we're including that important project for next year's budget. So that's kind of an overview. I'll spare you all the bells and whistles that I love to brag about in the interest of time, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any speakers, but I believe there are speakers on this. There we go. Okay, Commissioner Ha.
Thank you, Chair. And thanks, Fred, and thanks for the great job you're doing. A quick question. Last year, you approached us with a new program to go out and collect the fees for those that were delinquent or had not paid their election fines and fees. I don't see that reflected, and we helped fund it, I believe, correctly. I don't see that reflected anywhere in your budget, and I'm wondering if it's your budget or Larry's budget, or where does it get reflected, and what has been success, if any, with that program?
That's a great question, Commissioner. Thank you. So that 50 that we call the Second Chance program that we did in partnership with the Treasurer's Office. For campaign finance violations and fines, the magic number is 60 days. When the campaign finance fines are before 60 days, they're considered under the jurisdiction of the clerk's office. After 60 days, any outstanding fines or fees become an asset or an asset of the counties, and so they become collectible by the treasurer. And if collected, they go to the county general fund. We had a very successful program, which was as helpful in basically tying up loose ends. It was never intended to be a money-making prospect, but we did bring in, I believe, upwards of 25,000. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's a significant amount of money. The second part of that is with the cooperation of Corporation Counsel, we were able to initiate collection action against at least 4 candidates and committees who had significant outstanding balances. To date, it's my understanding we've reached settlements with 4 of those committees, but they're in various stages of payment. And I just got off the phone with Corp Counsel office before this meeting, and they told me that they've kind of stopped at this point initiating any new collection actions because they're having a problem, as you guys might know, with process serving and other things like that. It's just kind of slowed the process down. So there's no other new ones that are happening right now, and they're still just trying to bird dog those last 4 and get their settlements paid.
Thank you for the update. If I recall correctly, the number that was presented to us was over $200,000 in delinquent fines, fees, and whatever categories they fell in. So I encourage and thank you for following through with the Second Chance program, because certainly it's been past 60 days. So we got to be looking at a third chance or go get them. And I don't think it's fair to the other elected officials that meet the criteria to allow those to remain, especially those in the thousands of dollars. So thank you very much for that, Fred. If you recall, I did suggest that a proposal coming from you and or the treasurer's office that a proportion of what you collect should be earmarked for your budget going into the next year. So I'm still of that position. So thank you very much.
I believe that Finance Director Smeagol wanted to add something to this.
Yeah, Commissioner Haw, you are correct that a portion of this revenue is accounted for in the Treasurer's Office budget. So when we talk about that a few weeks from now, you'll see that on page C62 of the recommended budget, there was just about $75,000 of revenue collected in 2019.
Great start. Thank you very much, Steve.
You're welcome.
That's all I have, Chairman.
Thank you, Fred. I get a lot of comments down here. There's a lot of we have a lot of curious residents in our city. And so I get a lot of comments with respect to the condition of several finance campaign committee statements. Do you simply not have the staff to go through those in detail?
No, we don't have, the team that we have goes through all of them in detail and works really hard to serve as coaches for and resources for candidates and committees to help people navigate through, because as all you know firsthand, it is not intuitive. The system is not set up to make it easy on candidates or really to make it transparent in a true way for citizens, which is the intent. There's a massive overhaul needed at the campaign finance level, at the state level of campaign finance, but that's neither here nor there. But to your point, what I said before about being understaffed, if I had a magic wand and a sack full of money, I would absolutely add capacity to our elections department to review those candidate committees, because it's basically 4 people over there with various duties, but 2 of them working full-time on campaign finance enforcement. Debbie and Susan, no doubt all of you guys know Susan. She's one of the experts in the entire state, and even the Bureau of Elections calls on her as a resource. But they go through them all with a fine-tooth comb, as again, I'm sure many of you are also aware. But they could definitely, they need extra capacity to get to do that more efficiently, and to be able to, part of it is to be proactive and to do outreach to candidates, so that most of these people and committees that owe fines, it's not any malice. It's just things get out of hand, and then the fines accrue, and it gets more and more, and then it's easier to forget about it, which lands them in the collection action that we were just talking about. So a little bit, I'm a firm believer that if we had extra capacity to do outreach to help educate people and help candidates get through it, they wouldn't get into that position to begin with, and we could be much more effective at our job. So it's a long way of saying yes.
That was a long way of saying yes. Well, and one of the reasons I asked, I type mine out, and it seems like I get, there's a part during the program where if you put like, it was when you put like, when it was 19, when it was 2020, it would knock off the 20 or whatever. It would make it wrong. So I would get flagged for that when I typed it out. And a resident asked me about a particular campaign statement where they started with nothing. They raised a certain amount of money. They spent more than that money and had a fund balance at the end, right on the cover page. And that seems like so easy. But the things that are getting flagged have nothing to do with the finances. And when people see things like that not getting flagged, it's just a curious thing. So I just wanted to bring that up.
I know exactly the committee that you're referencing, and in that case, there has been significant outreach and work and time spent talking to that committee and trying to help them through. And while I did just say that it's hard and confusing for people, there are some out there who, despite how much time we spend with them, they don't get it or they don't want to land the plane, so to speak, and that's one of them.
All right, thank you. There should be mandatory training. I don't have any other questions, so there's a motion in support. Please vote.
That motion passes 11-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Be well.
Thank you. Okay, next we have Indigent Defense Fund. Oh, am I calling on Steve or am I calling on somebody else here?
Thomas Tomko here for Public Defender Office for the Indigent Defense Fund. Hello.
Hi. All right, let me get a motion and support, and then I'll open it up to you. Can I get a motion to receive and file?
So move, Ha.
Support, Carabelli.
Thank you. Go ahead, Thomas. Thank you.
All right, thank you. My role here, I'm the Public Defender Administrator at the Public Defender's Office. We're listed here as Indigent Defense Fund, and that's because when you look at the budget, our funding comes from two sources. One source is from the county, and one source is from the Michigan Indigent Defense Council, MIDC. The way that our budget is structured is we're asking, as part of the county budget, for the $2.239 million as our budget from the county. When we expend that, then we're able to tap into grant funding of about $4.1 million, and that allows us to accomplish the function that we have. As part of our budget, we have, so far, we're just starting out as a new department. We have 3 attorneys so far and 2 staff people. During the course of the year and as part of this budget, we will add another 5 attorneys and another 2 staff people. This will allow us to begin actual representation of indigent criminal adult defendants. In our budget also, there are 4 different deputies that are part of the office, part of the budget. They help us with compliance. Also, there's a person in community corrections that's also going to help with compliance. And when I say compliance, what that means is indigent defense has to meet constitutional standards, also what's set out by MIDC. It's a funded directive, and that's why we have the grant money to do what we're doing. And so that's the gist of our budget. Again, once we spend this share, this 2.239, then we can now get into the grant monies. That was calculated by an average of about 3 different years from 15, 16, and 17. That's how they came up with that number. That's approximately what the county was spending at that time as an average that was indexed. And actually, this year's budget, that amount is somewhat smaller than last year's budget. Not by a lot, but it is less. So we're asking the Commission for consideration and approval of the budget.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
Good. How you enjoy being an administrator now more than like in the courts?
Well, it's a whole different role, that's for sure.
I bet you it is. I bet you it is.
A lot more numbers.
I know it. Hey, listen, this may be above what you know, but, given the budget considerations up in Lansing and the effect of COVID, one of the biggest concerns we had with the indigent defense thing was, do you think the state's going to continue to help fund this, or is this something that's going to eventually fall on us? And you can answer that if you know it. If you don't, even if you have a hunch and you don't want to answer it, that's fine, but just curious.
In the short term, what I see happening is the continued funding. And by short term, I'm talking, the next 5 to 10 years maybe. Eventually, when you get to a time period after that, they might look at more contribution from, from the different local funding units, like
Gotcha.
Macomb County. But I just don't see it happening in the short term because there's different directives that are coming down. 4 different standards have been adopted. There's another 4, and you can call it 5 now, that have been proposed. One of those, the standard number 8, is a very big financial one because what it does is it affects attorneys' fees and what can be charged. Right now, it's event-based, and when they change to an hourly based, that's going to dramatically change budgets throughout the state. And so it's not just Macomb County that's doing this, but it's the entire state. And clearly there would have to be some funding because for everyone across the state to come up with that type of funding to meet that standard, there has to be additional grant money. It's just not there.
Okay. No, I appreciate that, Tom. I appreciate that long-range forecast, completely support what you're doing, and I completely support the plan. That's me as an attorney. I have to wear my commissioner hat when I think about the budget. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate the answers, and I'll look forward to seeing you get that new department in tip-top shape. Thanks, Tom. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no more questions. We have a motion and support. Please vote.
That motion passes 11-0.
Okay, thank you. So now we have, thank you. Now we have the court budgets. So I'll call up Chief Judge Pro Tem Matt Switolski, and I think he's got a group of people with him. Hello. So before you start, let me go ahead and get the motion, and then I'll open it up for you. Is there a motion to receive and file?
Romano will make that motion.
Support Carabelli.
Okay, there's a motion and support. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm Matt Switolski. I'm here covering for Chief Judge. He is his younger son, plays tennis for De La Salle, and they're in the state tournament, I believe, way out in Midland. So he wanted to be with his son there today. So I'm filling in for him here today. Briefly, we're responsible for all the Macomb County funded courts. So that would be circuit, probate, and the 2 northern district courts in Romeo and New Baltimore. We have decreased our operating budgets left vacant for the 2021 budget, 11.6 positions. We'll do our part during this time. The administrative team is here with me. Anybody has any questions, I or they will be able to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The one question that came up, and I don't think anybody has an answer to, but we had a pre-budget workshop, and the question was, the district courts never make enough money to obviously cover their costs. And the state does mandate that we have those courts. Is there anything in the law that does not allow us as a county to seek money from the like the townships and cities to cover the costs in their jurisdiction? Do you have any knowledge on that? I'm assuming you don't right off base, but that's the question that came up.
Commissioner, the statute actually provides for those to be county funded and doesn't allow for that, but if the legislature were to amend that statute, then there would be nothing that would, in theory, prevent them from being non-county funded courts. It's just fortunately or unfortunately out of our control at this point, because the legislation creates those courts and the districts and the funding mechanism for them. I hope that's responsive.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Thank you for answering that. I do not have any other speakers on board. I have a motion and support. Please vote. And I apologize for how big our agenda is today and for you to have to wait.
Commissioner Kleinfeld, can we get a verbal vote from Commissioner Carabelli? I don't know if the machine...
No, that would be a no on my vote.
Okay, thank you. That motion passes 10-1 with Commissioner Carabelli voting no.
Okay, thank you. And thank you all for meeting together to be available for us if we had any questions. Okay, so our next agenda item is, give me just a second here. Okay. Oh, we have the probation circuit court. And I don't even think I paid attention. Who am I calling on that? Am I opening it up to Steve or am I opening it up to the judge? Who am I opening that up to?
I don't know if anybody from Circuit Court Probation is on. However, the budget here, the situation is we have, of course, the Circuit Court Probation Department, which is staffed by state employees, and they're housed over at the Clemens Center. And we receive the probation oversight fee revenue that's in the circuit court budget, and then we're responsible for the operating costs of that office, which is fairly small. You can see, $30,000 or $40,000 of supplies and services and repairs and maintenance, and then the internal service charge, of course, which is probably mostly indirect cost allocation if I had to take a guess. So I guess the bottom line is they staff the office, we get the revenue and pay some small operating expenses.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion to receive and file?
Romano will make the motion to receive and file.
Thank you. Is there support?
Support from Kraft.
Thank you. So I'm just going to give you guys a second if anybody has any questions. Okay, I do not see any questions. We have a motion to receive and file. Please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Okay, next we have the prosecutor's budgets. Is Prosecutor Cloud here?
I am here. Good afternoon.
Hello. Good afternoon. Let me get a motion to receive and file, and I'll open it up to you. Is there a motion?
Motion by Romano to receive and file.
Support by Sauger.
Okay, we have a motion in support. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I am here also with Bill Harding from my office and Jennifer Meach. All three of us are here to answer any questions. But I just wanted to do a brief overview. We were given budget cuts. The target objective was just under $523,000. We were able to meet 99% of that objective to the tune of $518,400. How we did so, we unfunded several positions, an assistant prosecuting attorney 1 position, a part-time special prosecutor position. We unfunded a part-time clerical position. We eliminated an investigator position. We eliminated a victim witness advocate position, and that was actually subsumed by the Crime Victim Rights Grant and is funded by that grant now. We did an evaluation of all of the office expenditures and legal research and books and priced some things out, and we were able to decrease the amount of our legal research and books by $25,000 and changed companies from Lexis to Westlaw. And we eliminated our overtime budget and then reduced our general fund contribution to the Crime Victim Rights Grant. And we were able to do all of these things without having to lay off any full-time or part-time employees, so we were very happy about that. And with that, I would open it up for all three of us to take any questions if anybody has any.
Thank you. Commissioner Romano?
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Prosecutor Cloud. Commissioner Romano here.
Hi, how are you?
Good. I'm listening to the statements you made, and it just actually just ran through my mind, not only for the prosecutor's office, but also the clerk's office and the treasurer's office. Some of these cuts that you made, do you think it's, I don't know if the correct word is fair, but as you leave office and a new prosecutor comes in, do you think maybe at that point that not only in your department, every department that may have a new head of staff should have discussed this possibly with the incumbents to realize, don't you think you're putting them in an unfair advantage when they come into your department and these cuts have been made without any discussion at all with them, and they're coming in, as they would say, brand new?
Well, I know that what we've discussed with finance as well as some other departments, that it's my understanding that they can make some proposals, and that would be a budget amendment, because there could be numerous different ways that they want to restructure the office. And for both candidates right now coming in, neither one of them really has the knowledge of how the organization is structured. So they might not even know how they want to change things, if they are going to, until they actually get here, learn how everything is structured and what our organization, how everybody is situated, in order for them to know what they actually want to do. So I guess to try to discuss it with two different candidates right now, when they don't have the knowledge, actually may hurt them in the end or hurt the office in the end. So I totally understand your concerns, and believe me that has been a concern of ours too, with how this office is going to be structured. And I can tell you from my own perspective right now, I feel that we've got some understaffing issues with respect to the assistant prosecutors and how I have restructured things during the last 6 months. So, you know, it was one of those things where we had to make some tough decisions, and hoping not to hurt the office in any way. And it was my understanding that the new elected prosecutor coming in will be able to potentially go and get some budget amendments if they need to make some changes right away.
Excellent answer. Thank you, Ms. Chair. Thank you, Prosecutor Cloud. You answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ha.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, team, for the presentation. Just curiosity, with the COVID affecting every department within the county and everywhere within the state, has the prosecutor's office experienced slowdowns or longer periods of time in reviewing cases and issuing warrants when need be?
No, actually, I think that we have done a fantastic job from the beginning. I mean, the beginning, everybody was kind of in a situation of what do we do? You know, we were forced to implement some new technology, which has been actually fantastic for our office. IT department has been amazing with helping us, you know, get past that hurdle to work remotely. We were able to staff all of our prosecutors.
Hold on, just 1 second. If I could get everybody to mute except for the individuals that are talking right now, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
We were able to get everyone situated and working remotely to actually be present in court and handle the cases, and our warrant division to be here in the office to authorize all of the warrants that came in. We were able to effectuate employees working in shifts because, as all of you know, I mean, we are essential employees here, and the criminal justice system has to keep moving on. So we were able to assign all of our employees and working in shifts here to comply with CDC guidelines, to comply with social distancing, and to keep everyone safe and still effectively service the citizens of Macomb County. I'm actually really proud of our entire office for how we all pulled together and were able to do so.
Thank you, and thank you very much for that answer. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Prosecutor Cloud, for that summary. Just kind of a quick question. The prosecutor forfeitures that are part of the budget, was there any effect of bringing those in line with the law, helping offset any of the budget cuts that you've had to make? In other words, have we seen any increase in the budget in any capacity now that those funds are being properly allocated that made it a little easier in some capacity to deal with the rest of the budget?
Well, I think that we've had, we were able to use the forfeiture funds in providing some of the expenditures that maybe would normally have been an object code with the general budget. So, obviously we've been working with Steve Smeagol, who's been amazing in helping us, have everything organized and arranged and doing everything by the books. And we've been able to effectively have some expenditures taken care of with that. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, and the building being closed to the public, we had to suspend the OWI forfeiture program for that period of time, and it still has been suspended. And obviously with the new prosecutor coming in, it will be presented to them as to whether they want to continue with that program or not. But, we've obviously been able to use those means of financing to take care of some of the expenditures in the office. And I think all of you remember that we used forfeiture funds for the security system to bring it in line with the other county IT, and have it all be through the same company and all compatible. So we did use those forfeiture funds for good use.
I see. And I wasn't aware that we had suspended the OWI forfeiture program. Do you have any idea what the impact has been of that suspension as far as dollar amount?
No, actually I don't. We have not gone through and done an accounting of that in order to see the effect. The problem is obviously with so many people, not working, the office not open to the public, the ability for anybody to buy back a vehicle and go through that was just, for several months, just not able to do it at all. So we're going to be assessing all of that.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeannie, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
Good. I'll ask the same question I asked Tom. How do you like crunching the numbers as an administrator as opposed to being in court?
It has been a very big change for me. I'm usually, trying cases and in court every day, and it's been all office work. So it is a different world.
Well, you've done a great job, Jeannie, and thanks for keeping the ship afloat, kind of like the same way we had with the clerk, sort of a situation, So I'm glad you've kept it going. I had a question for you, and these are some questions I should have probably asked some other departments. COVID CARE Act dollars. Has finance talked to you, or have you talked to finance at all about any chance that your department might have some eligibility for some of those dollars?
I think I probably can turn that over to Jen Meach maybe to discuss. I know that there's been some discussion, so let me turn this over to Ms. Meach.
Hello. We have utilized or using some of the funds, and we are working with IT in conjunction with finance for those dollars.
Okay, so a lot of the IT stuff is being funded with COVID CARE dollars?
Some of it is, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Are you looking down the road to see if there's anything else that you can probably get for it?
We are looking into some options with that, yes. We're working with our project manager right now to do that, yes.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other speakers, so we have a motion and support. Please vote. Thank you so much for coming and meeting with us.
Thank you for having us.
I've been on the list to talk and nobody's called.
Oh, no, well, I don't have you on the list, but okay.
I just want to congratulate Jeannie on a great job her and her staff have done since they've taken over the prosecutor's office, and wish her the best of luck after the end of the year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And Marv, feel free to just jump in if I'm not calling on you and you think that you've got your hand raised. I apologize for that. Okay, thank you, Prosecutor Cloud.
Thank you.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Okay, so we have the Juvenile Justice Center and Child Care Fund. And I don't know if Steve is going to open it up or if we have Ms. Westfall here.
Yes, I am here.
Okay, let me get a motion to receive and file, and then I'll let you speak on it then.
Right,
is there a motion to receive and file?
So moved by Sauger.
Okay, moved by Carabelli, supported by Sauger. Okay, thank you, Rhonda. Go ahead. Oh, you're muted now.
Well, oh, there we go. I've got it. Okay, good morning or good afternoon. I want to thank you for the opportunity to meet and, with you to present and respond to questions regarding the Juvenile Justice Center's budget. I'd like to begin just briefly by sharing how proud I am that the center has been able to maintain our services and programs during the pandemic. Though we are operating on a smaller scale, we've been able to do so while ensuring the highest level of safety to our youth and families as well as our staff. We've been able to accommodate all the local court as well as community providers in providing remote distance opportunities for hearings as well as other necessary visitations and communications. We've also ensured that our families have had safe access to their children by providing a variety of remote and distance learning communication opportunities. Thankfully, cross my fingers, we have not had a COVID outbreak in the facility, nor have we had an in-house positive COVID case. We've been very lucky, and we're certainly thankful for that. I do believe this is the result of our staff using best practices as determined by our health authorities and our professionals. We owe our gratitude to the Juvenile Justice Center staff for providing youth and families with essential services. They've done so in a safe way, a selfless way, and without any complaints, and we certainly appreciate our staff here. Moving on to the budget, I'll just summarize some points that I think may be important to the board today. The center, of course, as you know, has closely monitored its population over the last number of years, working both with the county executive's office and the finance department to right-size our facility as our population has changed over the last several years. This year is no different. We have continued to see some decline in population since the last budget cycle. I understand that the depreciation in our population to be due to a reduction in our juvenile petitions, our local courts petitions, as well as a reduction in the need for institutional care by our local court. Of course, we saw some additional decline this spring with the onset of the pandemic. So we've really been working diligently over the last several years to ensure that we're approaching each budget year in a responsible way. And we're doing that again this year, monitoring that population and making sure that our budget needs are fitting our population needs. As such, we are moving to unfund those positions that have been vacant for several years, as well as those that through attrition have been vacated in the last 8 to 12 months. With that, we're proposing that a total of 32 full-time positions be unfunded. We have reduced our educational staff. We reduced our educational staff last year by 1 position. And again, this year, we evaluated further and reduced our educational staff an additional 4 positions, starting the school program this fall, which will have budget implications for the county. We've taken steps to limit our food service staff to 1 full-time employee by utilizing some contract services to prepare meals, and we've also used other non-food service staff in the facility to serve meals as a way to be more efficient with our budget. We've worked with our medical provider to reduce the cost of our contract for the upcoming year. We've worked to engage and build relationships with other courts throughout the state to offer bed space as a way of obtaining revenue and utilizing bed space that isn't used by our local court. We have housed youth from 5 different counties in the last year. St. Clair we've had a relationship with. We've also housed youth from Acosta, Lapeer, Sanilac, and Dickinson County. We've temporarily placed several of our staff in other center or county assignments in an effort to increase efficiencies and safety throughout the center and the county. And last year we vacated one of our custodial positions as an additional cost savings. That was due to areas of the building that were actually closed down because those housing units were sitting empty. So we've had some, of course, we're not asking for any increases in budget. We've had some significant decreases in our cost to the budget that are in line with our population as it has to continue to decline. Post-pandemic, I'm not sure what we'll see. We will likely see numbers that go back to something similar to last year unless there's some changes in the community regarding petitions or use of institutional care. And with that, Steve may have something to add, or if you have questions.
I have one. Commissioner Carabelli. Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And if Steve's on there, where are we at?
Oh, hold on just a second. I want the staff to know that I can't see right now who's not muted that needs to be muted. But go ahead, Jim. I'm muting after every time I speak.
Where are we at with the bonding for the facility and the remodel? Where do we sit dollar-wise in years?
Commissioner, this is Steve. You're asking how much is outstanding on
Yes,
that issue?
Well, I know we had the remodel, and I didn't know if there was an original bond that was still out there. Where are we at with bonds with the facility, and how many years left on it?
We have 2 years left on it. So that is the one issue that we cannot redeem early that I spoke about a week or so ago. So we have about $4.2 million of outstanding principal on those bonds.
I'm sorry, what's that number again?
4.2 million.
And that's over how many years left?
2.
2. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Chair. And I want to thank you for the work that's been done dealing with enormous changes in the service that's being provided, the level of service, and that sort of thing. It must be incredibly difficult to have to adjust from where the Juvenile Justice Center was maybe 10 years ago to where it is today as that area has evolved. So thank you for working so hard to provide those services while making the kind of adjustments necessary. I do have a question though, and that is, what is it? Do you know what the total number of clients, I guess you call them, that use the service, or total of young folks that we housed or had to use the facility for in the last year? So not the average daily amount, but the total number all combined?
The total number combined is just a little over 300, and that's okay, including post-COVID. So those numbers are going to be a little lower with the COVID numbers. Let's see if I can give you a little better estimate from a prior year.
Yeah, it's like maybe 2019.
I'm looking at that right now, and I think I might be able to do that for you. I see over 800 in 2019.
Okay.
Over 800 admissions.
Right, and so then what does that roughly translate to an average daily count?
The average daily count in 2019 was 41.6.
Okay, so an average, and you expect that this year is going to be obviously a little bit lower because of COVID.
Right. I can tell you that in 2020, the pre-COVID numbers, and it's just 2 months because we started in COVID early March, was 29.9. So those numbers had already dropped a little bit prior to COVID. So we looked at about 41 average daily population in 2019. That average daily population dropped down to about 32, 33 in early 2020. But then post-COVID, we're sitting at an average of 20 youth a day.
Right.
So if that were to jump back up, we'd probably see an increase up to between 30 and 35 admissions a day, or average daily population.
Okay, and right now our staffing level is going to be recommended 89 staff for those 30 folks per day.
No, if you're looking at the child care fund, that's reflective of the Juvenile Justice Center and the courts portion of the child care fund.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at the Juvenile Justice Center specifically.
Yeah, I'm going to have Steve maybe speak to that. That child care fund not only captures Juvenile Justice Center staff, it also, the county child care fund is going to capture juvenile court employees who are cost shareable with the state.
Yeah,
okay, Steve, do you know how many are Juvenile Justice Center staff?
It looks like
66.
Yep.
56.
No, 66. I'm sorry.
Oh, 66.
Yep, D25 for your reference.
Justice Center would make more sense. Especially if a number of these counties do not have juvenile justice centers. Instead, they're subcontracting it out to us and others, and we still can't. We don't have the facility full. We are having to staff and operate a facility that was designed for a different world, and it's very substantially, disproportionately affecting the budget. So again, no blame to anybody doing their job there, who's doing an excellent job and working very hard. A challenge to the executive and to the future board, hoping that they get imaginative and as a region, we can find a way to address this issue. And so that's all I have to say. And again, thank you for the work you're doing there. Please don't look at this as criticism of anything that's being done by you, your staff, who are by all measures doing an excellent job.
Yeah, I don't. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Drollet, this is Steve. Keep in mind, of course, that Rhonda was very diligent in cutting her staff to the minimums that she needs to staff that facility. And she's unfunding essentially 32 positions and eliminated one. So that's reducing the budget by a little over $1 million.
You're right, Stephen, and I'm no doubt that within the framework of what we have, everything possible is being done by you, by the administration, and by this Rhonda and everybody else there is doing everything they can within the framework. We need a new framework. When everything's being done, and we still we're allowed to have 10 residents per one staffer, and we have 2 staffers per 1 resident. The structure's wrong, and we need to get outside of trying to work within the existing framework to make it work. Realizing everything's been done already in that arena, it's time to get outside that arena.
So we understand that, Commissioner. The administration's aware of concerns that you're expressing, and we've been having discussions about how to restructure operations there, and it's a little it's not an easy solution. It's not an easy answer. So
have you looked at working with Oakland County or Wayne County or some of the other local counties to come in doing it regionally? Has that been a part of discussions?
We've had some discussion, not necessarily, I think, Wayne County. We've had some internal conversations about various options. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
But again, it's on our radar. Let me put it that way. It's something that we're aware of, much as you are yourself.
Right. I appreciate that, and I'm glad that those discussions are being had. I would hope that we could use those as a platform for taking action this next year. I unfortunately won't be there to be part of that, but I would hope that the time has come. Everything that could be done has been done, Steve. It sounds like everything possible has been done, and we're still out of whack. Not because of any fault of anybody, but because we need an entirely new arrangement. So I hope that action is taken in the upcoming year. So thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody at the department, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, I just want to clarify something. One person for every 10 is really 3 people because there's 24 hours in a day, and one person doesn't work 24 hours. That still doesn't make these numbers match up to that, but I just wanted to clarify that.
That is fine. That's 10 kids for every adult.
I'm not
2 adults for every kid.
Get into a conversation. I'm not debating. I was clarifying that for anybody listening. That wasn't a throwback at you. Okay, I don't want you to think that. I understand that Director Smeagol wants to clarify a previous comment regarding the bonds.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Kleinfeld. This is relative to Commissioner Carabelli's question about the outstanding debt. There is $4.2 million of principal outstanding on those bonds. Just keep in mind that those bonds were for the youth home were part of a bigger issue that also included monies for renovations at Martha T. Berry. So the entire $4.2 million is not necessarily directly related to the cost of renovating the Juvenile Justice Center years ago. I don't know if that really
it
matters,
does.
but I just don't want, I just want to clarify that that's a more of a sort of a split bond issue.
Madam Chair, Steve, when you get an opportunity offline, can you get with me on the breakout of that?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. My question is for Steve. For her to drop from 99 to 66 at the center alone, and I look at the personnel savings, and you said it was more, I see the 2020 is 9.47 million and the 2021 is 8.7. So that's not even $1 million. And we're talking about over 30 positions with benefits and things. I can't imagine that position would be that you could cut 30 staff and only save that much money.
Yeah, so what happened was in prior years, we just had a turnover factor of about 20% built into the budget. This year we identify, and those position counts were left in the head count, but the money was taken out as a block of money. We've identified 33 specific positions this year, took those or unfunded those.
Already had taken the money.
He'd already taken some out, yes.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Because that math just didn't make any sense to me. I do not see anyone else with questions. We have a motion to receive and file. Please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. So we have community corrections budget. And let's see. Do we have Barb here?
Yeah, I'm here. How are you?
Good. Okay, let me get a motion to receive and file. Is there a motion?
Moved by Leonetti.
Thank you.
Support Carabelli.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead. If you'd like to open up and say something, that's fine.
Sure, just a couple of real brief notes. Our budget for 21 looks very similar to 20, despite all the changes, with the exception of a reduction of $80,200 due to a continued vacancy of our clinical manager position. What we did ask of the county is that the total savings of that position was about $110,000, but that left us with just one administrative position, being myself. And so we were able to take about $30,000 and add that to an MDOC funded position to create a deputy director position within my department to share in some of those administrative duties and to kind of keep everything running as smoothly as possible. So other than that, we did receive word last week that our MDOC budget, our request of 1.52 million for the year was fully funded, which was surprising to us. But we're very excited about that as we did see a large increase in pretrial programming referrals due to COVID, as well as a need for covering electronic monitoring costs, drug testing, and other supervision programs. To take any questions.
Okay, you froze for just a second. You were just wrapping up when you froze. I think, quite frankly, we're going to find because of COVID that the money we save on one end by doing this is far more than the money we spend on this end. And we've kind of all known that, but maybe other people will see it and the way things are funded might change.
We've seen obviously some additional individuals who have been able to remain in the community and have done that, well, and more than we would have seen in the past. And we've also seen some things where we had to change some policies within our department in terms of, remote working and not having clients be able to come in to see us, that have also resulted in some positive outcomes in terms of removing some barriers for those folks, like transportation or childcare or things like that, when we can connect with them on the phone versus having them come into our offices to see them. So while this is all very, alarming and difficult for all of us, there has been, a few things that have proved to be pretty positive. So,
thank you, Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Barb, how you doing?
Very good, and you?
Not too bad. Hey, same kind of question I asked for the prosecutor's department. So the county got some CARES Act dollars. Have you worked with IT or finance to see if, most of your stuff comes from the state, but is there anything the county can give you from those CARES Act dollars to help in your budget?
We've already been able to take advantage of a couple of different things on that end, and I cannot say I echo what everyone else has said. IT has been amazing. And I don't know how we would have gotten through this without them. So kudos to Jaco and his whole group. We are working currently on a scanning project. And what that means for us is that allows us to back scan thousands of physical files.
Oops, lost her. Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
So that we're able to go completely paperless, and that's being funded through the CARES Act.
That's great because, I think, let's say if there was a new jail and we were going to do pre-trial services, you'd almost want to be paperless anyway. So that's a good start, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we're also currently working with IT and the Sheriff's Department.
We lost you again.
Sorry. I apparently have a bad connection. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I heard your dog too.
And you can hear my dog. It's a fine time to bring that in.
Go ahead. You said there was something else that we were doing too. We talked about it being a first step for pretrial services, but what else?
We're also working with collaborating with the Sheriff's Department and IT on securing some tablets that might allow us to do group programming for inmates who are currently incarcerated, because that is the one thing that we have not been able to continue doing.
Okay. All right. Great. Thanks, Barb. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Carabelli.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On that note, and I don't know the proper terminology, I believe we're $1 million ahead on the alcohol tax money. Are any of those dollars used for any of your programs?
Yes, we've been able to work with Macomb over the last couple of years, and more so this last year, to utilize anyone who is eligible for their services, that they will allow community corrections to conduct their assessments on individuals who are incarcerated and send that assessment to them, and then they approve their funding. So whether that comes out of that specific pot of money, I'm not as familiar with their financial setup, but they certainly have every year have become more and more of a support for us where we may be lacking funds. They're able.
Okay.
I lost her there a little bit. So I guess, let me rephrase it a little bit. Steve got a little windfall, I believe, from the state on that. So with that said, Steve, is there any extra funds that can be utilized for what they have going on?
Well, we're anticipating a windfall, let me say that. Assuming that takes place, then 1/2 of that difference must be contributed to the Office of Substance Abuse. So that money would then be available for various opportunities for programming.
Okay, thank you.
Government should never say out loud, we're anticipating a windfall. That's just a joke. I don't have any other speakers. We have a motion and support. Please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming and answering our questions.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, give me just a second, guys. I got to scroll down. Okay, it looks like we are at the sheriff's office. Do we have Sheriff Wickersham here?
Can you hear me?
Yes. All right, first let me get the motion and support. I'm sorry. Let me get the motion and support. Is there a motion to receive and file?
Motion by Hall.
Thank you.
Support by Sauter.
Okay, thank you. So do you want to open up with a statement, Sheriff Wickersham? Or do you want to speak to the budget?
As you could see, we were at a 5% reduction for 21, which equated to $2.5 million. At this time, we are in a position to reach that number. And I'll explain why in a little bit, but I can't guarantee that, whatever happens in 21 and if things get back to normal, I may be coming back in front of the board, trying to recoup some of those positions or get those positions back funded because of our operation. So what we have done is we are unfunding 6 deputy sheriffs for 21. And as you remember, this board approved 13 to help handle the court. But with the court operations currently, district courts and even circuit courts, they're finally using the video technology. So a lot of our transportation, running prisoners back and forth has been reduced. So we can keep those 6 deputies. I think we could make it through as long as they keep using the technology and we don't have to run, 4 to 6 vans down the Warren and a couple to Roseville all on one day. Currently, or the next unfunded positions would be 12 corrections deputies that we would not fill for 21. Pre-COVID, we were at about 900 inmates. At the low point, the judges released, whether on tether, reduced bonds, or other aspects. At one point, we had a daily population of 250 inmates, but now we are back up to 500. We had to open, obviously you're thinking, well, 500 inmates, we should be able to reduce some staff, but we've had to open up some of the older sections for quarantine, and all new inmates coming in are going to be quarantined for 10 days before we send them up into the general population. So as long as that population stays where it's at, we don't know what's going to happen, in 21, but we could keep 12 corrections positions vacant. We will keep 1 records clerk position vacant. Again, a lot of these individuals are out on bond. the paperwork coming back to the jail isn't as cumbersome as it was when we had 1,000, 1,200 inmates, so we could keep that one position vacant. Again, with the low population, we've reduced the overtime by 307,000, and obviously with the low population, prisoner meals would be reduced. Those reductions total about 2.1 million, and as we got the budget finance already reduced it $320,000, so that hits 2.5 billion, and we hope we'll be able to stay within that. And with that, I take questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Gillette.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Sheriff Wickersham, for the service you provide and the good work that you do. I do have a question that may go more to Steve, I'm not sure, and that is, you mentioned that the judges were finally using the virtual system that was saving you some manpower and time and having to physically, run the prisoner to the court. And I remember, if I recall correctly, there was some frustration among some commissioners and perhaps others that system had been put in place some time ago, but judges were simply not utilizing it. And now with COVID, it's kind of pushed them into utilizing it. So my question is, in a post-COVID world, hoping we get there very soon, would it be possible to charge back the court for the cost of transporting that prisoner if they choose not to use the virtual system? Instead of we could charge them for the time and the cost of having a deputy, provide that service. Is that something that would be possible? Maybe Steve could answer that. Maybe that's something for corporation counsel. I don't know.
I'll defer to Steve or corporation counsel, but I think once they're remanded to the care and custody of the sheriff, then it's the sheriff's responsibility for the transportation aspect of it. But I don't have the exact answer.
Okay. Yeah, I know it would be your responsibility. They would just pay for that. But Steve, any thoughts?
I don't know. I would have to defer to John Chapka's office on that. I don't know the answer.
Okay, that's fine. I'm pleased that they're finally using that system that, taxpayers put in expense, and be frustrated if they, for some reason, went back to the more costly way, in the future. So hopefully we can find a way to maintain that. And that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much. And thank you, Sheriff, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Leonetti.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sheriff, same question I've been asking other people. CARES Act dollars. Now, it's come to my attention that some other counties were even able to use CARES Act dollars for some wages. Have you worked with finance or with the administration to see, what you could get in CARES Act dollars?
We've been working with the administration. We've been working with finance. Anything that could have a COVID-19 nexus, we're trying to get it funded through CARES Act. And as Barb mentioned, we're looking at tablets. We've bought some additional Polycom units. Those are the video units. We're actually going to put them up on each floor. Again, with the hope, with COVID, the courts were forced to do hearings and things via video. And we're hoping that stays because, again, that will help us with that transportation and safety aspect where we could just take an inmate out of the cell and put them in a room right on the floor, and they can meet with their attorneys and they could have that hearing. So, every aspect that we can to find CARES dollars that would fit and help us, we've been doing it.
And there's no question it's been across the board. There's been IT stuff or, video transmission stuff. What about wages? Anything on wages?
Yeah, it's got to have a nexus for that COVID. And I just can't see how we could get additional personnel. And it would have to be spent by the end of the year. So
right. Well, I'm not even saying it's not necessarily for, hiring new personnel or anything like that, but for current personnel working or anything like that. Again, Steve, maybe you can answer it better than the sheriff. I mean, I've heard other counties were somehow able to use that towards their sheriff's departments. I don't know how they categorized it or what they did, or maybe what I heard wasn't exactly accurate. I don't know. Just some clarification.
Yes, Commissioner Leonetti. So we're using some of our CARES dollars to, of course, pay out what we're referred to as the gratuity pay. So in the sense of, or terms of the sheriff's office, if you're in one of those non-controllable environments, those folks are receiving an additional $5 an hour in their pay. And they've been doing that since the beginning of COVID. I think one pay period, it was $2 and then we increased it. So that's happening at the sheriff's department in terms of wages. And if you recall last week, the CARES Act also allows us to charge public safety and public health payroll.
Correct.
And we've identified monies in our CARES allocation that we're going to utilize to charge sheriff payroll against. However,
Okay.
we've earmarked some of those dollars to pay off the bonds early, and also that's all part of that project. And there's only a limited amount of CARES dollars left from our allocation after we pay out business grants and vulnerable populations and IT and all those other categories of expenses. There's a limited amount left for labor.
Okay. And you more or less answered the question that I was going with, is that surplus, that money that we're talking about using to maybe reduce the bonds or put into the capital improvement, is coming from the fact that you're able to allocate it into first responders with CARES Act dollars for some of the salaries for the sheriff. And
correct. Yeah, and we could choose public health. We could choose the sheriff department, either or. But there is a limited amount left, or a limited amount available. Put it that way.
Well, we get that, but at least we're pegging it in. I just didn't see it reflected in the sheriff's budget, but I get it. I get it. It's reflected in what you proposed when you came last week with the 11 million or so for savings or bond reduction.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. I have no other speakers. So we have a motion and support. Please vote. And thank you, Sheriff, for coming.
Thank you.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. Resolution R20-5404 in support of the amendments made to the Open Meetings Act. Is there a motion?
I'll move. Leonetti will move for it.
Thank you. Is there support?
Support Duzick.
Okay, we have a motion and support. I don't see any speakers. I moved on it pretty quick.
Just to note that the language has been slightly changed because obviously the two bodies of Congress have passed it, and now it's just up for the governor to sign it. So just in case anybody wanted to know, that's all. Other than that, that's it.
Okay, thank you. All right, please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Thank you. New business. Do we have anyone that would wish to speak under new business? I don't see any under details. Nope, I don't see any, so we'll move on.
Commissioner Kleinfeld?
Yes.
I was going to just mention...
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, I forgot.
No, that's okay. It's been a long meeting.
Go ahead.
Okay, so, all right. Commissioners, on page C65 of the budget are the appropriations made to the outside agencies and associations. And you guys had started requiring those agencies to come and give you a little overview before you made those appropriations in the budget. This year, we only had 4 committee meetings, so the departments filled those up. I had some commissioners ask me what we were going to do with these. So I had some of the agencies reach out to me and they were going to submit something in writing. I didn't know if the commissioners wanted to schedule a separate meeting and have these agencies come in, if there were certain ones that they had questions on, and I can reach out to those and get something for them, or how you guys wanted to handle it. So I just wanted to throw that out there and let you know that we currently don't have them scheduled, and I can coordinate anything you wanted in order to get the information from them.
So commissioners, I think I'll let you guys contact her, and if enough people feel that they want to actually have a meeting to go over theirs, then we'll work something out with respect to that. Okay? Okay, thank you, Crystal.
Yep, thank you.
Oh, it did it again. I have to take a picture of something. Hold on. Public participation. Does anyone wish to be heard? Please hit *6. Does anyone wish to be heard? Seeing none, we'll close public participation.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Gillette. Support?
Support. Chadwick, support.
Okay, support by Dugy. Please vote.
That motion passes 12-0.
Okay, thank you. So we're adjourned, and Mike Keys, I got a before and after for you on the agenda flipping on me.
All right, perfect.
I got before and after pictures. Thank you all.